I want us to pay attention to here is we're trying to make sense out of where these concepts are coming from. And so we talked about at the beginning that we have what shape when we add extra stuff in? A square. So to get all those tiles, what are we going to end up doing? We're going to square it, right? So to get all those tiles, we're going to square it. And so we need to recognize it and look for patterns and say, okay, well, I'm squaring something. Well, I'm squaring the sides. Each side here is 3. Each side here, right? It's a 4 by 4. And you can even write it like that, 4 by 4, 3 by 3. Here, each side is how long? 5 by 5. So to get to the design
interruption, just wanted to share, students, if you do not have ID for tonight and you're a Philcrest student, you do not need to come to the office and get identification. All you have to do is tell me your name at the door. The only
just notice I'm taking the design number and adding 2 every time.
Students who attend other schools. So if they're not in our database, they will need to provide ID. So if you have a date that's coming from another school, they not only will need to show us some form of identification, but they will also need to make sure their ticket is signed by me or Mr. Armstrong of Toronto, indicating that they have that $25 ticket. So hope that clears up. Please not come to the office and ask for us to print out a student profile. Currently we do not have pictures in the new system, so we can't do that. But if you're in our system, you are good to go.
All right. So it's n plus 2 squared. That's getting that total square there. But do we actually have all of those tiles? No, which is why she needed to take away something. And how many pieces is she taking away? Well, how many sets are there? So she's doubling whatever she's taking away, right? She's taking away 2. And then notice this right here was always the design number plus 1. So n plus 1. Every single time that piece was n plus 1. Design 2, you see how we had 3 there. Design 3, we had 4. So for design n, we're going to have n plus 1 to take away. Does that make sense? Hopefully to start seeing that? Yes, Mr. K. Thanks, guys. All right, cool. So some people were already bringing up the concern because they were looking at number 3 that Maureen and, what's his name, Matthew, didn't have the same expression. But I want you to remember this. If I square something, I am not, let me repeat this, I am not just doing n times n and 2 times 2. N plus 2 squared means n plus 2 times what? I would always rewrite it like this, because what property do I now need to use? I have to distribute. N times n, that does show up, that is n squared, but I also have n times 2, which is what? By the way, I'd write this down in your book. N times 2 is 2n. Then I take this plus 2, and I distribute. What's 2 times n? And then 2 times 2? Notice how you are missing those middle terms. Those are kind of important. I would also even distribute this minus 2 right away. So minus 2n, minus 2. And then combining like terms, 4n minus 2n is plus 2n. 4 minus 2 is plus 2. Is that what Matthew had? So I will point out that you can actually put that information under C for number 3. Okay? So how can we use technology to verify graphically the equivalence of those 2 expressions? If I graph them, they should be the what? The same. So let's check that. For the sake of time, I'm going to do it quickly. But I'm going to graph, what was the first one? N plus 2, x plus 2, so I need to make it squared minus 2 times x plus 1. Now when I graph Matthews, it should what? Be equivalent. How will we know if it's equivalent?
Move right on top of it.
So the equivalent? They're literally on top of each other. They're exactly the same. They look different, but are they the same thing? Yes. I would make that note to myself of how we did that on that problem.
How did you do it?
I graphed the two functions.
I know, but I'm saying, how did you get to the second function? Because I graphed the first one and it didn't go on the graph, and I tried to go to the second one, and it just deleted that. Like,
Did you accidentally put an n in there instead of an x?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so the calculators only accept x.
Okay.
And that was the issue. Yep. That's a good question. So the big thing I want y'all to pull from this is, are there multiple ways to represent each function? It doesn't matter which one it is. There's always multiple ways to do it. When we come to class on Monday, we are going to learn about different ways to write quadratic functions. And we'll actually properly define what a function versus a relation is first, before we get into the different equations. But here's your homework. Actually, the big idea is all that stuff, all you have is the textbook. Forgot to update that. So the textbook M1-29 Write and Practice, all of it is due Tuesday, October 19th. So what are we going to do for a short period of time on Monday? Ask questions, which means you should probably come to class ready to ask those questions. I would take a picture of this if you don't think you'll remember it, and put back your textbook if you had to borrow one. Put an alarm on your phone to remind yourself to bring a textbook, or put it in your backpack, because we will continue to use it, at least for a little bit on Monday. We will get back to it soon.
Can we turn in our,
I don't know what your thingies are. If you have your big ideas and you haven't turned it in, if you can get it done during enrichment and bring it back to me, it won't be late. If you turn it in next week, it is late. Man, that was a good time. How did you fill out this whole thing?
This is due today, and yesterday we did like the top thing. So I thought you were lining up the.
Only through here. Because we haven't done these.
I know, that's the problem.
Yeah, we haven't done those.
I know you said that yesterday, but then you said it was due, I think we didn't like, we got to go home.
If you look
I
at,
put my own definition, and then once you do in class, I add yours to it, so it gives a better understanding.
I'm going to give you a blank one, because this tells me you Googled it and didn't actually. So like, that's not, there's no way, because that's not a factor formula.
I know, I didn't know what a factor formula was.
So how did you know what the vertex was?
I didn't.
So how did you find it? Oh, so you Googled it instead of trying, okay.
Well, it's not like I could look at my notes, we don't have it yet.
Which is why it wasn't assigned yet.
Well, I didn't know that.
It's literally been a part of the homework directions for the last week.
I know, but it's better to do more than less.
No, it's not, because you weren't